mission of any school, it is rare that you get the opportunity to attend an event like this that really is the representation of that mission. We talk about words like a transformative learning experience. That's what we promise here at Ashland University. That's our mission statement, that our students will undergo a transformational educational experience. Well, if you dig a little bit and you read the documents for how this lecture started back in 2003, Kathy and Peter Littleman said there were a couple of people who had a transformative effect on our lives. We have been unalterably changed, I think is the direct quote, through the impact of the Fords, and particularly Lucille's impact. I was actually just talking to a graduate who was here in '69 and '71 and took 4 classes, and he said, you know what, I think I was majoring in Ford. But what we really are seeing here today truly is the expression of our mission statement lived out, where the impact of a faculty member led one transformative agent, Lucille Ford, one of the great trailblazers in Ohio history, truly that, who influenced a man, Peter Littleman, who you'll hear from, of course, later, who's become a trailblazer and a leader in his own right. And I asked the question, the people that he has mentored and touched, who will be the next person to follow in his steps? Because there will be that person, and the legacy of the transformative educational experience at Ashland University will continue beyond Peter as well. So we welcome you to this event, which is that expression. I've been going around with a smile on my face that's bigger than usual as I think about our mission lived out through the transformative experience of these people. And as Lucille has touched so many lives, next to the podium will be her very daughter, who is a leader in her own right, a spiritual leader, a remarkable woman who has touched so many lives at our seminary and beyond, and we want her to come. Dr. Watson will come and give us her invocation. Please welcome her.
Good afternoon and welcome. The Ford family is so blessed to have you here, and my sister Karen and I are so grateful to Ashland University and to Dr. Peter and Kathy Littleman for their love of Ashland University and for the community, and to honor our beloved parents, Dr. Lucille G. and Mr. L.W. Ford. So thank you for being here today, and let us pray together the prayer of invocation to our God. Our gracious God, we give you thanks for generous hearts that overflow with love for Ashland University and for this community and for our beloved parents. We give you thanks for vision and for hope and for leadership. We give you thanks for your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. We give you thanks for conversations and for wonderful generosity of events like this that can bring us together as a community, a ray of hope in a world that is so divided. We can be a beacon of God's love, of God's light, right here in Ashland. We ask your blessing upon our conversations. We ask your blessing upon our food and our fellowship together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elad Granada. I'm the Dean of the College of Business and Economics here. I have the distinct pleasure of following in the footsteps of Dr. Ford, who was Dean not too long ago. We just had a very moving ceremony with our Delta Mu Delta inductees. And I challenged the students and the faculty to do 2 things. I challenged the students and asked them who among them would strive to be the next Peter Littleman. And I challenged the faculty, and amongst them I include myself, who among us will be the next Dr. Lucille Ford. And we admitted that it is a very difficult dual challenge, but it is something to strive for. We as faculty take very seriously the mission of accent on the individual. And if you're looking for a testament for that mission, just look around and look at what you're about to see when you see this conversation between Peter and Lucille. We do that every day. We talk to our students and we talk to our alumni, and they confirm it to us every day. And sometimes President Campos says, yeah, but everybody says they do that. And then I tell them, yeah, but we do. We actually do it. And if you want to see how much, and to what degree, just look around you and look at this wonderful group of people that have come here this year and that have been coming year after year after year to honor Lucille Ford and what she's done for this community, for this university. And so we thank you for being here. We are proud to have our graduates and our predecessors here with us, and our alumni and our students. And I hope you enjoy this wonderful, wonderful event. So welcome.
Might be a little biased there.
They might go home and decide to stop homeschooling. Oh, you're right there. Okay.
The program got buried under your salad, so if you want to dig it out, take a look at it. It's our 15th year. Can you believe that, Peter? No. Yeah. If you are enjoying this meal, let's thank Dr. Peter Littleman, who is the sponsor of this event. I also want to thank our administrative staff. So if you were able to find your name tag or have enough seats here, they deserve a round of applause. This day belongs to two living legends. They have much to share with us about love, hope, and inspiration. They need no introduction, so I will take no time because they deserve the time because you have come for them. So here, please help me welcome Dr. Ford and Dr. Littleman.
No, you first.
Wow. So welcome. These are really deep chairs. I encourage you all to come up and try it afterwards. It's like extraordinarily plush. So welcome. I'll kind of ramrod this through. Thank you for all coming. First of all, let me, on behalf of my wife Kathy, who graduated also with me in 1973, and there's some old friends, and Jeff and Jack, and who are classmates, and Naomi as a professor, and John Nethers, and I'm going to miss people, so please don't take it that way, as well as some newer friends I've made over the recent years. Justin and Lynn are here. They were a year ahead of us. My sister-in-law, Cindy, was like 2 years behind with her husband, Daryl, and there are others. Fred Martinelli, I know, and others are here, so obviously it's wonderful, and this is a family gathering. I want to say family before I do the program. In many ways, like little sisters are Jody and Karen, and if you just stand for a moment, please. Just a lot of shared experiences and shared frustrations and shared love. I said as we were sitting here after Jody's prayer that it's a shame Larry can't be here. Larry was able, I believe, over about the first 5, I think my count is correct. And they were always a joy and a pleasure. And I know he'd be proud to be here, and he would be proud to be here. And those of you who knew Larry know what an extraordinary person he was. And Carlos' comment that Lucille and Larry and the family, and and Andy Shockney and his father, others, really changed my life. And I'd like to believe in that process have impacted many, many others' lives in the ripple effect that we've all affected people. And some of you, you may have seen in some of the photos that were up, and if I encourage you to look at the photos that are outside on the, you'll see a photo of Lucille in Africa with one of our effectively daughters from Germany making stuff while we're in Kenya with the children. And you'll see some of the orphans and other children that my wife and I have had the pleasure to impact. And Lucille has been very helpful. And in fact, we have one of them at Temple University, and we were speaking to her yesterday. And so the goodness ripples. And hence, in this booklet, I want to bring two things to your attention in the little booklet. I know you always get these kind of booklets, but actually three things as I look at it. One, obviously, Lucille and Larry on the front, and will be forever etched in my mind. The second, if you open the next page, you'll actually see me. Most people don't see me very often dressed up, and I actually can wear a tux. I own a tux and have a tux and can wear it. And you actually then have the bios of all 15 of the speakers over history, and I know many of you have been here for all of them, and we appreciate that. Lloyd, I know you have, and a number of others. And then I would direct your attention to the page that has Lucille's bio. And you'll see Lucille, I think, at her high school graduation photo. And you don't have to look at it at this moment, but it's a precious photo. And I'll start, we're going to just have a conversation about our lives and others' lives and things we may have learned or think we've learned. And I'm going to start, if you all take a look at that picture of Lucille in your book, okay? And I, some years ago, asked Lucille, it's a gorgeous photo of a gorgeous lady, why were you so serious looking in that photo? What was so serious and somber in the world when you were 17 or 18 years old that made you look, and why you're not somber at all today?
No, that's
what happened in between?
Between the somber days and the joy days.
Yeah.
These people out here, every one of them, that's what made it so joyous.
That's true. That is absolutely
That's what made it
true.
joyous. Thank you.
We're going to kind of take turns asking each other questions a little bit. I'll start first, and I will ask the first question and the last question, just so you understand the rules, and then we'll let you ask a few if you would like, okay? My first question is, I have said to a number of people, and in fact, all the guests who have come in come from New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and all the places, right? And I say to people, to Lucille, that if she would have gone to New York, she would have been a household name because of the things she did, charitably, business-wise, educationally. So if instead of doing them in a community of 30, 40,000 people, she had done them in a community that happened to be 16 million and had the newspapers, right? She would have been known in that community and hence therefore much broader. Why did you live essentially your entire life in Ashland?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, do I have others who have lived that long in Ashland?
Who's lived
Seriously.
a long time in Ashland?
I'd like to know. Do we have real Ashlanders, from birth? Put your hand, there's one. Anybody else born here? There, look. How many of you
Karen.
were born in Ashland?
Yeah.
And how many of you came here and loved it? Did you notice the president said that? And we embrace them, certainly we do. Peter, I think one of the things about a hometown, if I may, is that you have roots, and those are experiences from high school. I opened up the paper today, and here's the class of 67 or whatever it was, and I thought, how exciting. They all came back together here. But that isn't the biggest thing. the biggest thing is that you have freedom of choice here. You're in a community that is accepting. I suppose I stayed for a number of reasons, but one of them obviously was that I felt some obligation, because coming from a business family and being involved in business gives you a certain sense of community as a wonderful starter. And I worked at age 14 in that business. And from the years on up until the opportunity. But then when I was intrigued by universities, because universities seem to have a mystic about them and the opportunity to keep learning and so on. And so I started on the educational front and found that I stayed at Ashland University. And Mr. President, if you'd like to know why I wanted to stay so long, I had the opportunity to be creative, to think, to do my own thing for the benefit of the university. When you have the opportunity, choice is the biggest thing. And when you have choice as to what you do, it's intriguing and it pulls you. And so I've loved every minute of it here. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yes, I did have opportunity. Yes, I had the beautiful opportunity on serving on boards and being out and seeing people. And then I was always glad to come home. Glad to come home to my greatest joys of all. And you know, I have 2 daughters, and one's for God and one's for country. One went into the Navy and one is at the seminary. Don't you think that was pretty good?
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And
although it does suggest Karen doesn't care about God and Jody doesn't care about country, but that's a separate.
But also it's intriguing that the university gives the opportunity to know Peter like Peter Littleman when he came as a rather inexperienced 17-year-old. Would you say that is a fair comparison?
Yes, just 18, but yeah.
Now, since you asked me a question, I'm going to ask you, how did you feel as you came as a freshman?
I came from Lima, Ohio. It was a working class neighborhood. My father had dropped out the day after Pearl Harbor. I dropped out of high school the day after Pearl Harbor, lied about his age, right out of the movies in that regard, right? Joined the Marines, did the deal. My mother did graduate high school. I have 3 siblings who did not graduate high school, one who did, who works for me. Education was not valued. It was not devalued, but it wasn't valued where I grew up. It wasn't, I mean, many of you, fortunately, come from homes like certainly your home, education was valued, was really, really valued. It wasn't. So when I came, I guess what I was expecting was more high school. That may sound like a naive answer. And I went to Lima Catholic, and it was, you know, I put myself through high school, paying tuition and so forth. But, and I vividly remember 2 classes. They were the first 2 classes. Naomi Saslaw, which just, please, where are you at, Naomi? I mean, God bless. It was her first year on the faculty. And I didn't care a lot about how I communicated because I figured people understood me, right? Whether the way you spoke or the way you wrote. And I was immediately impressed that Naomi, and subsequently the other professors in that area, cared about how you expressed yourself, that you had the potential to express yourself well in writing, and that there was a value of expressing yourself well in speaking, right? And I can't tell you, it was like wasn't a slap in the face, because that makes it sound like it was an affront. It was just an awakening. It was like, welcome to the new world. And I've never said this publicly. I've kind of said it to you, but I've never said it publicly. It changed my whole view on communication. Now, others influenced it subsequently. Then the other was going to an economics class, and I had no idea what economics was. Come on, I mean, what do I know? You know, I still don't know anything about economics, but and I remember the economics class.
We changed the rules. Go ahead.
Well, and what I remember, and I think Fred Rayfeld is here somewhere. Where are you at, Fred? You know, I learned economics also from Fred, who is here. And what I learned is there's more than opinions. There are studied views of things that may be foundations for perspectives and opinions. But it's not enough to just have an opinion. Not enough to just have opinion. There is evidence, there is, and in an area, and economics spoke to me. And finance spoke to me. Accounting, I thought was silly, but that's a separate issue. I've chaired 20 accounting committees over the years and so forth, and somebody's got to do it. But it spoke to me. And I remember those two experiences, and I was saying to Carlos, I remember a third experience very vividly. And I did some classes in the past few days, and it was, and you get asked this question, what class should I take? And if you're an accounting major and you aren't going to take the advanced accounting classes, I can't help you. You know, if you're an art major and you're not going to take advanced art classes, I can't help you, right? But I can help all of you students, and by telling you, take out the course catalog, the entire school's course catalog, and find the course that you think you will do the worst in, and take it pass-fail. Now that's different for him than it is her, and so forth. And try to excel. Demand that you excel in the course that is the worst possible course for your skills and your interests. Because, and I said to Carlos, when you came in as president, you didn't have a lot of margin and all the dealing with adversity that you had learned. This is a free opportunity as a student to learn from adversity and to learn to struggle. When you started your business, Justin and Lynn, the adversity you had in some of your classes helped you in an odd way, right? And the class I had is, I took 4 years of German. I had no interest in German as a, you know, I took 4 years of German because after the first, why not? And I got A's, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And I think I liked the fact it was a struggle. Didn't come easy. So when you go back to your question, I knew nothing. And it was like an awakening. And then it would just go like hell from there. So let me do you. What professional achievement, if you could only pick just one, stands out in your mind as special? I mean, there are many special, obviously. But sometimes what people outside think is the big achievement is not necessarily what an individual thinks is their big achievement. So professionally, what do you view as your memorable, your most noteworthy achievement?
In the profession? Well, I found that economics was the dismal science, and now don't all clap. And as a result, it was a challenge for me to find a way to communicate the value and the operation and the treasure of our community called economy. And so I wrote a book, and the book was to help the teacher from kindergarten on up how to teach economics, so that the concept of what makes us great as a country could be digested by the kindergarten. And you know, one of the things we did, I haven't told this much, so now don't laugh at me, but I wanted to teach specialization, the way in which you all know specialization is a concept. And so I had the little children in the kindergarten make applesauce, and they got to get their hands in the applesauce, you know, and then in order to package it and so on, and I specialized the job, and then they found out that, oh, we got more applesauce by specializing the work. Now that sounds naive, but it isn't when you're down at the kindergarten level. And so I wrote a book on how to start at kindergarten and go all the way up to Peter Littleman and teach the glory of our economy and how it works and why we treasure it, and that I will call my contribution.
All right, you get to ask a question.
I get good.
You get to ask me whatever you'd like next. You want to? There's your list of.
I know a lot of questions I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Oh, great. I don't need a list.
By the
like
way, there
this.
are no questions that we haven't asked one another over the last 48 years.
Yeah. Oh, no. I want to ask you for, and it isn't on there, and I don't mean to give you a sidebar, but I think one of the important things that Peter has to communicate to you, outside of, if you want the biggest one, I'll give it to you, but the intermediate one that is every day, is the way he keeps continuing to learn. It's absolutely unbelievable to me, because he keeps adding in. It seems to me that brain must be about this big by now.
No, that's my ego. My ego's that big. My brain's only this big, but the ego's very big.
No, but it's that continuing to learn. If you love to learn, and he's a boxcar of knowledge, and some of it I like and some of it I can let lay. But on the other hand, you understand what I'm talking about. I mean, it's infinitesimal. I would tend to be the macroeconomist, and he might tend to be the micro, but that's a difference. So Peter, tell this group today how you handle the volume of knowledge that you have been able to accumulate.
Well, first of all, I think I'm very curious. I don't know that I had anything to do with that, but I am very curious. And I've been to 74 countries. Jack travels a lot with Deb, and all 7 continents. And yeah, it's nice to see a mountain, but it's the curiosity of them and what was there, and the people I tend to travel with, a couple of them who were former speakers. I mean, we actually do research on where we're going, and as we're on the fly, none of us knew the answer to that question at a place we were at, and then most of you go take a nap. No, we go do a 2-hour research break and come back with whatever we piece together. And I read the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and the local paper every morning while I do sit-ups. Okay, it sounds crazy, but it's kind of how I start. I read The Economist, and I read all sorts of things. And my view is, the painting by Thoreau, Sunday in the Park with George, this huge painting, it's all points, just dots, right? It's in the Chicago Museum of Art. Thoreau was a pointillist. And that's how I view the world. It's just dots, just dots. But the more dots I have, the more I can see of the photo, especially if I can get myself distant enough from it. So things that make no sense or are irrelevant suddenly become relevant 3 years later. A lot of them don't, by the way. And so when in business or in my research as in academic or in teaching, most faculty want to teach the same course every year. I did something like 27 courses over the course of my career, because I liked learning the new stuff, forcing myself, and because when you teach, you have to learn the material. I mean, you kind of know it, but I mean really learn the material. So I really like that. And as you know, to take a very untoward example, we were talking about it last night, which is I have a niece that we're putting through university. She's at Villanova and was one of the unfortunates that you read about having opioid problems. And so a year ago, February, we found out that she had opioid problems. Well, I knew nothing. I mean, it's nothing. When I say I knew nothing, I had read the newspaper article or something. I knew nothing. In the next month, I probably read 6,000 pages. I read chemistry. By the way, did I understand all the chemistry I read? No. I read psychology. I read sociology. I read, and so forth and so on. I talked to everybody I knew who might know something. And in the process, none of them had the answer, but it helped me put together a framework to understand. And it describes, now, unfortunately, as you found out last night, I know way more about that topic than I should. By the way, she's clean and sober for 18 months, and that's good, and so forth. In Villanova, doing well, and so. But the point is, it showed the personality. You weren't surprised that I threw myself into it that way. Most people would say, what am I going to do? My approach, and I think it's the approach of a lot of successful people, including you, is, what am I going to figure out? Big difference than what am I going to do? Because crying and screaming is doing something. Figuring something out is something very different. So that would lead to a question I have for you, which is, you not only are successful yourself, Larry was not only successful, you've known Bert Morgan and Dick Dowk and you know, Sam Zell and a lot of monumentally successful people in business. You've known a lot of people, including many in this room, monumentally successful in their personal lives and their family lives. What distinguishes, and this is more for the young people probably, what in your experience distinguishes, quote, successful people in what they do from everybody else who struggles? You had a good word last night, Carlos, of they aimlessly almost, or without direction, or what, is there something that distinguishes successful people? Or are there things?
Yes, I think the biggest thing, of course, the word success is a complicated word. Because what is success to one is not success to another, and so it depends on how you want to define success. But that is a clue. That's a clue in the whole discussion. My biggest concern is that you need to identify your own DNA or find it. If you're in college, you have the opportunity to build it because you're going to need it to know what is it that drives you, and you need to find that balance. It took me a long while to figure out that really what we have to do are some fundamental things, and this gets sort of bedrock. But bedrock, what is it? Well, you need to take care of your body because you might live longer than you expected, you know? And so as you do that, you have to know how to take care of it. All right. Second, please continue to learn. Learn every day. It's a good day when I learn a brand new thing. Oh, it's so exciting. Knowledge just opens everything. And it's not all in books at all. It's in life. And as Peter's saying, you learn from a lot of people. Sam Zell came as our first speaker for this group, and he spoke, I can remember this day, it's 15 years ago. And the one word he used was so powerful to me. Be authentic, he said. And I thought, wow, that says know who you are and then go for it, kids. In other words, dedicate yourself to a mission. And as you do and you continue to learn and you've taken care of yourself, you need to socialize. I wrote a card yesterday to an individual that isn't in this room. But I said, you can be sad alone, but you cannot be glad alone. You need each other. I need each other. You need each other. And as we socialize and feel that power come through us. And then finally, I would say to you, oh, please, build on your faith. Know your faith. Treasure it. And build on it. If you do those 4 things, I promise you you're a success.
Your turn.
My question to get to you. How in the Sam Hill do you take care of your schedule when you are 200 plus days, am I correct?
About 180 days
okay.
You're on the road.
Not in the United States or traveling or in some way other than home. He's not there. How do you do that?
Combination of business pleasure and business pleasure. How do I do it? I just do it. It's part of my life. How do you put on your shoes? It's to your authenticity. It's authentic who I am. In fact, Kathy, as you will attest, Cindy, doesn't want to travel, and it drives her sister nuts because, I'll say, okay, we're going to go to Istanbul. It's like Jack, right? We're going to go to Istanbul, and then we're going to go to, and no. He's like, and Cindy's go, I'll go. So.
No, I'll go. That's what happened.
She's gone. So how do I deal with it? First of all, to be honest, as a footnote to it, I have the luxury of flying private a fair amount, not all the time. I have the luxury of a driver will pick me up and drop me off and do that. I'm not minimizing. I have the luxury of flying first class, although inside the United States or Europe that means very little. Going cross-continent, it means a lot. And I stay at nice hotels and I don't eat at Olive Garden. But, it energizes me. I think most people are tired by travel, and I find it energizing. Now, do I like to stand in the line where for the 800th time they stamp my passport? And you want to go, don't you have it in that machine you're doing this stuff to? That I'm not Al-Qaeda? That's no fun, but that's like anything, right? There's unhappy moments of any. I just find it very invigorating. In fact, when I had a hip replaced, I was unable to fly because of the fear of blood clot, right, for a while, like 6 weeks. Wow. First of all, my wife was ready to kill me, and I'm ready to kill everybody. Because it's to your point, my rhythm got broken. I'm used to not traveling over the holiday season. That is part of the rhythm, right? But the non-holiday was really difficult. So I think it's like anything. I exercise since I've been about 17. I try to exercise a couple hours every morning. I don't always succeed, but I do pretty well over a lot of years. I know it doesn't look like it, and people say, how do you do it? And you say, how do you brush your teeth? How do you take a shower? How do you put on your clothes? You make time for what's important for you, right? And you have to prioritize. It's that simple. And some days you have to juggle. That, to me, is travel. And it has enriched me, as you know, enriched me in so many ways. I have this whole Kenya experience, which has dramatically influenced my life. We have 4 daughters in Germany that if I had not traveled, we would have never had. It's just enriching. And so it's not a hard thing to juggle. It's hard for my travel agent sometimes. But let me ask you one or two people who really influenced you in your life, professional or otherwise.
That's an interesting question because it's only very recently, and you'd think, oh no, that's not true, but it is true, as to what really influenced you. And when I was a little girl, our pastors, the Andrewses that lived in Ashland, they had books stacked up in an old mansion, in an old house that they had. And I loved the books and what they were doing. And then there was a lady that came to Ashland University called Mother Andrews. There won't be anybody who remembers Mother Andrews. Do you, Nancy, to old bless your heart? Because she was a charming Shakespearean professor.
She was just retired.
And she had this marvelous ability to teach. So I wasn't particularly interested in Shakespeare, but I wanted to find out what in the world did she do. So I went to the whole entire class to find out what she did. And all I learned was that she loved her subject and loved her students. And I thought, hey, that's kind of interesting. So you know what I did? Then I found myself gravitating after I've been in business and doing a number of other things, perhaps by requirement, that really what I'd like to do. So I was 40 plus when I decided to take my PhD because I wanted to teach. And I understood that was my union card. And so you understand what I'm meaning. And so I did that, and then I had a glorious teaching experience, just glorious. And talk about building energy. It's the students that give me energy. When I get in a classroom, I'm alive. and I enjoy it. I enjoy the communication, the opening of minds, the questions that come. and even the ones that get sleepy, and I know they've been up too late the night before, and so a few times I've had to say, stay after class for a minute. But I had a trick, and since I'm old enough now, I can tell you the trick. I told every student that I wanted to see them after the exam so that I could talk about the exam. I didn't want to talk about the exam. I wanted to talk about them. And so when they came in to talk about the exam, then I could find out what caused them to tick. And that was the exciting thing, and there's one of them. And when I found out what caused him to tick, man alive, I turned that screw. Because I said, Peter.
That would make it sound like she screwed me, but
you've got a lot ahead of you here. Let's, and so we had a lot of conversations, and I finally sent him to some very fine economists to have them sweat him a little bit. Yes, and how did you enjoy that?
I agree. Now, where's Cush? I see Cush. I lost where Cush is at. Cush. We have about 10, 15 minutes. Is that right?
Do we have that much?
Okay, I'm just asking. Just double take. All right, so I'll make this my last question to you. You get one back, and then we'll do one or two of the audience, and then, all right. So,
we'll go to that.
by the way, the question Lucille asked me yesterday, I was telling Carlos and Karen, was why did I come to Ashland? And I paused a second and said, well, because I knew you were here. And she said, oh, no, that's not true.
He didn't even know I was here.
And I said, that's what makes us different. And she said, how? And I said, well, if I were to ask you why you came to Ashland to teach, and you said it was because you knew I would come as a student, I would have believed it. My other question for you is, why haven't you quit? Why haven't you quit? No, I mean that very seriously. Why haven't you quit? I mean, most people kind of at some point say, enough.
Oh, there's no fun in quitting. There's fun in doing. Just the doing is fun. And you can always find something interesting. I was asked at the university some years ago on an interview kind of thing, what makes you tick? And I said, well, let's see, what does? And so I answered, I just like to see good things happen. And whenever you start on something that's good and you enjoy that, all kinds of fun things happen, such as students, graduates, community service, a community foundation, and watch it grow, and the service that it conveys, and the joy that it brings in someone's heart. So if you like good things to happen, just keep doing them, okay?
All right. So, Kush, should I stop for a moment? And if anybody wants to shout out a question, we'll take like one or two, and then we'll do a wrap. Is that fine? Does anybody have a question? This is your chance to ask Lucille. Yeah, just stand up and shout it, and I'll repeat it. Does that make sense?
Get a microphone so we, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they're coming. She's a good-looking lady. I'd let her come to you.
Here she comes.
Just a piece of advice.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Amir, and I'm an international student for an MBA. And I had a question. On a professional level, if you can go back in time to undo one of the biggest things that you regret, what would it be, and how would you do it in a different way?
If you could go back, what would you undo professionally? Mine's very easy, and it's a generic one, actually.
What would I undo?
What would I undo professionally? 3 or 4 times in my career, I have trusted somebody I knew I couldn't trust. And by the way, it wasn't like they were thieves. We're not talking about they were thieves. I'm not talking about that. I knew in my heart of hearts that on the one hand, they deserved the opportunity. And I knew in my heart of hearts, they were not up to the opportunity. And the outcome was not successful, difficult on the individual, and required effort to undo. And I would have been better off, they would have been better off, and the rest of us have been better off if I had said, Mary, you've done everything you've been asked to do. I just don't think that's in your skill set. For whatever reasons, and then have a serious conversation, and they deserved that from me, and I didn't give it to them. And I would say there's been 2 or 3 instances, variations of that. I trusted somebody because even though everybody had told me they weren't going to be a good partner, the deal looked so good. Well, I ended up regretting that. It was my mistake. I trusted somebody I knew I shouldn't have trusted. If I end up trusting somebody that I thought was trustworthy, or when I say trustworthy in the circumstance, that's not a mistake. I mean, I may have made a mistake, but that's life. I knew it. I knew it going in. What would be the mistake that you would undo professionally, Lucille? Well,
I'm sitting here thinking about the question very carefully because it's a good question. And I've relived what I would have undone, what I would undo is your question, I think. And that is that 90% of the time, or maybe 95% of the time, it's been no problem for me. But the 5%, it was once, that I once in a while relive, and I think, ah. And that was, I lost my cool. I have a normal ability to know when I'm getting close to that level, you know? And so I'm usually able to stay away from it. And I did with the one-on-one, but I took it out on someone else. They were a good listener, and I started talking about the situation that was miserable. But that's not the way to handle it. And I taught myself it was not the way to handle it, and I still did it. And so I guess what I'm saying to you is, be careful of your normal emotions. That I don't mean that you should control them, it isn't all the time, but that you need to decide what it is you want to do before you do it. Are you with me? Decide what you want to do before you do it, rather than after.
Okay, we have another question I think we would have time for. That was a great question. Somebody else? Anybody else? Yeah, here, just if you...
There's Al Holden.
Just stand up, and that's close.
Yeah.
You're close enough, I can just repeat.
I just read the headlines this morning about the tax code changes they're proposing. What are your thoughts?
What are our thoughts as economists on the tax code changes that Mnuchin's Treasury is kind of proposing? My quick answer is that I haven't studied them in detail, and they have zero chance as a package. They'll make some tweaks. I said in December that if the Congress did not deal with Obamacare, I don't even care what they do with Obamacare. That's not the point of what I'm saying. If they did not deal successfully with Obamacare by the end of May, it was like getting stuck on the beaches of Normandy. And if you got stuck on the beaches of Normandy, if you ever studied that circumstance, get off the beach, get off the beach, get off the beach, right? Otherwise, you get bogged down. And my prediction then was if it wasn't successfully done by May, they would lose all their energy, all their political capital, which wasn't that high to start with, and not be able to do anything major because they all start campaigning in February. The entire House and a third of the Senate campaigns in February. And they didn't, and I don't think they have a chance. They'll do some things. They'll do the repatriation of cash offshore. They'll tweak the estate tax. They'll tweak. That always occurs. But I don't think they have the political steam. I don't know. What do you think about the odds of a tax? We haven't had a major tax reform for 31 years. And we need one desperately. We could argue about what, because 31 years of special breaks adds up to you need to get back, and then you'll get another 30 years of special breaks, and you need to get back, and so forth. Well, any views?
Well, you're discussing whether you kick the brick down the road or what you're doing, you know. You're not dealing with the, my judgment, we have to decide whether it's time or not to face it.
And it may be time, but we don't have the political capital.
No.
We, the nation, do not have the political capital.
And I didn't suggest that I had the answer to that.
Yeah.
It isn't.
At least that's my answer, I think.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one more quick one, or should I just, does somebody have a quick question? Anybody? If not, you do? Kush does. Kush does.
She has a,
By the way, a big round of applause for Kush and all the people who organized this so amazingly, not just this year, but for 15 years.
This was a question submitted by one of the audiences because we solicited questions. This question is for you, Dr. Ford. How did you personally know what road to follow in your education and career? Were there any definite signs that made you feel like that you were on the right path or the wrong path to guide you?
ask me the question.
So the question is, as you look back on your career, how did you find your way, educationally and professionally? And as you look back, were there forks in the road that you stumbled about?
That I troubled with, or that?
Is that a fair interpretation of the question?
I troubled with?
Even if it's not, that's the one we're going to answer. Okay? We're going to stay with my question. I think everybody agree with that? Onward. So as you look back on was it really clear that you were going to go get an MBA and then you'd get then you'd do business for 21 years, and then you'd do a PhD, and then was it all clear?
Oh, of course not. I say that flippantly, but I do think you want to be alert to the opportunities that come by your door, and whether you want them or you don't is another question. But don't be so blinded by, I know there's this thing, set your goal and go and get there. Nonsense. What you want to do is take life and take the turns as they come, and then you optimize them. And then you have a lot of fun along the way besides. And so as you have that fun and you take the opportunities, all kinds of good things happen because you're having a good time doing your job.
So normally, Lucille gets the last word, but I'm paying. Fair enough? So if I pay for everybody's lunch, I get the last word. First of all, I would like to thank Kush and all the people and the Ashland people, and they've always been wonderful, and it's great to see old friends, and wish we could see one another more, and it's great to see you've done so well. Second, Jody and Karen, we love you and treasure the 48 years we've known one another, and the times we've had, and value them immensely. Third, I wish more than probably all but 3 of you know that Larry was here. One memory, there are many memories of their father, husband. One of them that most people don't know was it was a relatively tense time on campus at one point, and Lucille and Larry and Kathy and I went to the big movie that was out at that time, which was The Godfather, maybe the greatest movie of all time. And it was just a memorable, fun evening where we had dinner and a spectacular movie, and then discussed the movie, and it captured the ability to understand there's life and then there's stuff. And I forever remember that and forever thank you. And then the last thing I'd say is everybody in this room, starting and ending with me, is blessed to have known you, blessed to be your friend for many, many years, blessed for sharing moments, in our case, many, many extraordinary moments, both intellectually and socially. And I will end by saying what you pointed out to the other group, that I end my emails to people that matter to me, which is LOVE. Thank you.
And please, let's thank Peter for a lovely lunch. How about that? And the opportunity to come together.
She got the last words.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. Push.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for people who demonstrate love, inspiration, and hope. This concludes our program. You have commemorative program. If you wish to keep it, it's yours. Otherwise, there is a recycling bin at on the way out. Please, we would be happy to have them. And if you are one of those who's very planned, our next event is September 25, 2018. We look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.